Legends of Design, Astons and Jags is brought to you by Princess Gates Entertainment, providing TV and film equity and financing solutions. Carlisle Events, fueling the passion of automotive lovers around the world with shows, auctions, and more. And Autosport Designs, one of the world's leaders in the sales, service, and restoration of vintage and exotic cars. Coming up on this episode of Legends of Design, Astons and Jags, the history and heritage of the Aston Martin DB5, the car that shared the leading role with Secret Agent 007 in the movie classic Goldfinger. Plus, we'll tour the streets of Amelia Island, Florida, home of the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance in James Bond's favorite ride, at much more leisurely speeds. Just ahead on Legends of Design, Astons and Jags. The legendary lineage of the DB series of sports and GT cars from Aston Martin began in 1950, shortly after David Brown, whose initials are reflected in the DB designation, purchased Aston Martin. The DB2 was the first in an evolution of DB classics, and in 1963, the introduction of the Aston Martin DB5 brought even greater heights of style and performance to the Aston Martin brand. Here at the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance in Florida, GT Joey got a guided tour of the DB5 owned by Tom Papadopoulos.
Well, there were three different variations of the DB5, and obviously it's one of the most iconic Aston Martins of all the models, being the James Bond car. But in total, just over 1,000 have been made. 65 of them were Vantage spec cars that had a little bit more horsepower and Weber carburetors. 139 of them were convertibles that are extremely sought after, especially in left-hand drive form, in which case there were only 39. It's the Aston to have if you're going to have one in the collection.
Just a beautiful car. Everybody obviously knows the car from Goldfinger and the DB5 and Silver Birch. It's just beautiful in any color.
This is Sierra Blue. It was actually the original color of this particular car. You know, most people will paint them Silver Birch to have a James Bond car.
Right. No, this is definitely different. It looks wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about the specs of the car. All the DB5s had disc brakes?
They did. An independent suspension, and there were 4-liter engines. Today, when people rebuild them, they usually punch them to 4.2 or even larger displacements for more torque. Early cars came with 4 speeds rather than 5 speeds. It was really what was left over from the DB4 era.
How many years did they actually make the DB5?
64 and 65.
So it was really a run of just only 2 years.
2 years, but Aston's always used what was on the shelf. It was a cottage industry. So if, for instance, a DB4 Series 5 was really a DB5 body that was out, and they still had DB4 gauge panels and interior.
They use it till it runs out.
That's what they did.
Now with the transmissions, were they all synchro transmissions?
Yeah, David Brown box for the 4-speed and a ZF 5-speed.
Now there were also other options, like I see the vent bar on the side. I saw some of them that would say Vantage on the side.
Vantage is the higher horsepower option, which was a different intake cam and Weber carburetors, and supposedly had another 35 horsepower over the standard 3SUs.
When I saw you a while back, I did see one that I thought was a DB4, but it was a DB5. Did they have some with the cathedral lights in the back or no?
They did. Only Series 1 and 2 DB4s would have had cathedral lights that were straight in the rear, a egg crate grille rather than slatted grille, and a larger bonnet scoop reminiscent of the DB4 GTs.
And these are all aluminum bodied cars?
All aluminum.
And all done by hand?
Correct. Touring of Milan designed it. Superleggera is super light.
I've noticed you, especially, you've taken them on tours all around the world. Is there anything you prefer in these cars, any model?
It is without a doubt the DB5s and DB6s are the most usable of the DB series. I think the DB5 is the one that everyone will ever want.
Now, I also notice on this car, I love the way the roof line comes down, but there's a filler flap on both sides. Now, there's still only one tank in the car, correct? It was just a way to get to the tank from either side?
Well, it's English convenience when you pull up to the pump. Although if the car did have factory air conditioning, the air conditioning would have been in the boot trunk, and the car would have had twin tanks.
Right. Okay, so
they're actually very small, and you'd have to constantly switch. So it was.
Now, how many cars had air conditioning along the way? Not that many.
Very few.
You've been around these cars a very long time, my friend. You can't believe even the value, but just the way they've gone up in status. You know, they were always lagging a little bit behind, but now they're just total icons to the world, aren't they?
I think they are. I think they've come up at deserved value as they languished for so very long. And again, they are an icon of the automotive world and certainly of the Aston Martin world. But you'll find that you can find a DB5 for $600,000-$700,000 and one for $1.4 million or $5 million on occasion. It's the cost of restoration that's in between. Then there's the differentiation of a right-hand drive car, left-hand drive car, and left-hand drive cars obviously for the colonies.
That's interesting. That's what I wanted to bring up next. I think it helps the brand with a heritage foundation. You know, when you look at what Jaguar does, what Aston does, a lot of the European companies have a heritage foundation. So you can get the car certified from Aston. If you needed parts, they can remake a body panel, a door panel, if you wanted to. You're gonna pay, but at least they give you those options. And I think that's also helping bring up the numbers on these cars.
Well, I think the cars and the condition is what's brought the numbers up. As far as the heritage portion of the factory, it's welcome having the parts remanufactured.
Right.
A good friend of mine, Chris de Valence, actually heads that heritage department up in England, and he's really worked hard to have a lot of these parts remade.
Well, Tom, thanks again. We'll see you real soon, my friend. Thank you.
You want another hug?
Yeah, another hug. So cute.
Up next, we're off to one of the most luxurious exotic car dealerships in the Northeast, Autosport Designs. We'll join Maria Prekagis there when we return on Legends of Design, Astons and Jags. Legends of Design, Astons and Jags is brought to you by Princess Gates Entertainment, providing TV and film equity and financing solutions. Carlisle Events, fueling the passion of automotive lovers around the world with shows, auctions, and more. And Autosport Designs, one of the world's leaders in the sales, service, and restoration of vintage and exotic cars. Evolution, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. At Corvette Central, we can help you push the boundaries with your Corvette. Whether you're restoring, replacing, or just researching, Corvette Central has the right parts for any job. For over 40 years, this family-owned and operated business has serviced the Corvette industry. Their state-of-the-art warehouse and manufacturing facility make ordering your parts easier and more efficient than ever. Use your computer, smartphone, tablet, or just call us directly to place your order. America's leader in Corvette parts and accessories since 1975.
Corvette, America's sports car. When you're ready to sell your vintage vet, Vince Conn Corvette is a name you can trust. He's been in business for more than 28 years, buying 1953 to 72 model Corvettes from all around the country. Condition is not a concern. Vince Conn Corvette invests in restored to fixer-uppers. When you're ready to sell, give Vince Conn Corvette a call at 1-800-850-3656 or visit VinceConnCorvette.com.
Legends of Design, Astons and Jags is brought to you by Princess Gates Entertainment, providing TV and film equity and financing solutions. Carlisle Events, fueling the passion of automotive lovers around the world with shows, auctions, and more. And Autosport Designs, one of the world's leaders in the sales, service, and restoration of vintage and exotic cars. There are high-end sports car dealerships, and there are very high-end sports car dealerships, like Autosport Designs, where Maria Prekagis got the inside story.
If we've whet your appetite for absolutely fabulous cars, then Autosport Designs, Inc. is for you. Antoine, surrounded by lovely, beautiful, amazing cars. Tell me about the dealership.
So it's basically 32,000 square feet here with a 24,000 square foot storage building. Vintage, exotic, sports cars, classic cars, restorations, service, and sales.
And Aston Martin is one of your flagship brands.
Correct. We're very well known for Aston Martins. It is our primary brand. Porsches, Ferraris, Jaguars as well. We are also a Lotus new car dealer, so servicing them as well.
Your service area is quite large. You do so many different types of cars. It takes a special technician, a specially trained technician, to be able to work on them.
Definitely does, definitely does. Within our staff, we have certain technicians that are specialized for certain types of cars, and then there's other guys who can pretty much do everything. But it's quite a unique individual, not only from the service point of view, but also the service managers and the parts manager to maintain and get all the parts needed and get the car finished.
Well, and you also import. So if someone wants a car from overseas, you can bring it, convert it, and make it all happen.
Correct. So there's cars that are out of the U.S. that were never brought to the U.S. And if you bring them into the U.S., they need a certain amount of work, and that's part of our other business, registered importer, that we can convert them, get them to U.S. specs, and get them to be used here. That also lends into the buying and selling of cars, because we do a lot of buying and selling, not only in the U.S., but abroad as well.
I love it. Everything under one roof.
Exactly.
You got to check it out, Autosport Designs.
Back in the 1980s, the American performance car picture was pretty bland, thanks to rising insurance rates and a new reality created by the energy shortages of the 1970s. But in the mid-1980s, Aston Martin brought their own brand of muscle car to America, as Maria discovered.
Well, the two cars in back of us, prime example of Aston Martin kind of going into the American muscle scene.
Yeah. Big V8s, rear-wheel drive, just trying to get the power to the ground. So what they consider a Volante is their way of saying convertible. So the black car is a V8 Volante, and the silver car is a V8 Saloon or Coupe. So basically they're both V8s, the same bottom end. The black car was a US car to start with, so it has emissions requirements on it that the US required, where the silver car is a true European car, European exhaust, European intake, European bumpers, although it's a little confusing because the black car's been converted to European bumpers.
So what's so special, besides the engines, about these cars and Aston Martin stepping up and trying to compete in the American market?
I think the biggest thing with the Astons is limited production and the fact that they were all hand-built in the day. So you may get one chassis number right next to the other chassis number. They may be a little different, but that's sort of the quirkiness comes with cars like this. In the late 70s, they came out with what was called the V8 Vantage, and that's where the performance really started. The cams, bigger displacement, bigger carburetors, and they were going for 0 to 60 times, quarter-mile times to try and compete with the American muscle car.
For me personally, I like the look and the style. It's not quite as bulky. Was that intentional?
Absolutely. It's British ways of doing an American muscle car, but it's more of an elegant muscle car, where you could drive it to the golf club or the shooting range, wherever you may be going, or down to the pub, being in England, but still seem elegant, yet still have the power.
It's my car. It's for me.
It's all you.
Coming up, we head back to Amelia Island, where GT Joey fulfills a boyhood dream, a rendezvous with the most famous Aston Martin in movie history, on Legends of Design, Astons and Jags. Legends of Design, Astons and Jags is brought to you by Princess Gates Entertainment, providing TV and film equity and financing solutions. Carlisle Events, fueling the passion of automotive lovers around the world with shows, auctions, and more. And Autosport Designs, one of the world's leaders in the sales, service, and restoration of vintage and exotic cars.
Corvette, America's sports car. When you're ready to sell your vintage vet, Vince Corvette is a name you can trust. He's been in business for more than 28 years, buying 1953 to 72 model Corvettes from all around the country. Condition is not a concern. Vince Corvette invests in restored to fixer-uppers. When you're ready to sell, give Vince Corvette a call at 1-800-850-3656 or visit vinceconcorvette.com.
Evolution, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. At Corvette Central, we can help you push the boundaries with your Corvette. Whether you're restoring, replacing, or just researching, Corvette Central has the right parts for any job. For over 40 years, this family-owned and operated business has serviced the Corvette industry. Their state-of-the-art warehouse and manufacturing facility make ordering your parts easier and more efficient than ever. Use your computer, smartphone, tablet, or just call us directly to place your order. America's leader in Corvette parts and accessories since 1975. Legends of Design, Astons and Jags is brought to you by Princess Gates Entertainment, providing TV and film equity and financing solutions. Carlisle Events, fueling the passion of automotive lovers around the world with shows, auctions, and more. And Autosport Designs, one of the world's leaders in the sales, service, and restoration of vintage and exotic cars. The Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance is a festival of phenomenal cars, where special exhibits, such as Al Unser's race-winning Indy cars, are placed on display. There are outstanding collections of movie cars as well, and GT Joey didn't hesitate to thoroughly inspect one of the most famous cars in movie history, the 1964 Aston Martin DB5, driven by James Bond, Agent 007 in the movie Goldfinger.
There are Aston Martins, then there's DB5s, then there's the original Goldfinger car with its curator, John Carefoot. John, thank you for coming on the show.
You're quite welcome.
Tell us about the icon, John.
You either know Aston Martin, you either know James Bond, you know Goldfinger, so everybody knows this car.
When you drive it on the streets, isn't it amazing? All these years later, how many people know it, no matter what their age group is?
It is. It's fascinating because of the continuation of the series. They may not know the early movies, but they still know what James Bond is all about.
Right, and for guys like our age group, when they did Skyfall a couple of years ago and brought it back, and I didn't even know it was in the movie, it just grabbed you right back into the picture. Tell me some of the neat features on this car that just aren't on a regular DB5.
The obvious one is the ejection seat, where the bad guy has shot out the panel on the roof, and there's the machine guns that come out of the front running lights. You have the bullet deflector screen in the back.
Now, is that screen hydraulic or is that electric?
It's electric, and it's based off of an electric window actuator for an English car.
For the smoke that came out the back and all that, I thought originally it was compression air, but it's not.
Well, there's liquid oil in that big container, and then they use the compressed air to shoot it out the taillight lens on the one side, and then they have a smoke generator that shoots the smoke out the other taillight.
It's just unbelievable. Now, do the bumpers in the back also come out like the front?
The front and rear have the extendable battering rams, is sort of what I call them, to push the people off the road. And then it also has a little nail tack hopper in the back trunk that you can drop nails to puncture the bad guy's tire.
Yeah, neat. And I remember as a kid, obviously, one of the biggest things is when the license plate was rotating around in a circle.
Yeah, no, that's really cool when you can, there's a switch on the inside, now you can put it into 3 different license plate modes.
Sure, I remember it well from the movie. When I look at the wheels and all, there were standard wheels for the car in the movie. There was this scene when the cutter came out to blow the tires on the Mustang. Now, this doesn't really work that way today, does it?
No, they must have cut the filming, and then somebody ran out and they threaded the extension in there and then continued on with filming and shredding the Mustang tire.
So when we go for a test ride in a little bit, we won't keep this bolted on, right?
No, we'll take that one off. Just, I'm sure there's some liability about shredding people going down the road.
How does it drive? You know, it's a period car, 50 years old, but how does it drive a neat piece like this?
First of all, the Aston Martin series were great cars. They were, in the class of Ferraris and really nice sports cars. This is a very nimble, fast car.
Coming up, GT Joey's serious flashbacks thanks to James Bond's DB5 will continue when he gets to sit inside and then take a ride.
The car sounds really good, doesn't it, John?
But before that, Maria shows us one of the rarest Aston Martins ever built. Next on Legends of Design, Astons and Jags. Legends of Design, Astons and Jags is brought to you by Princess Gates Entertainment, providing TV and film equity and financing solutions. Carlisle Events, fueling the passion of automotive lovers around the world with shows, auctions, and more. And Autosport Designs, one of the world's leaders in the sales, service, and restoration of vintage and exotic cars. Evolution, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. At Corvette Central, we can help you push the boundaries with your Corvette. Whether you're restoring, replacing, or just researching, Corvette Central has the right parts for any job. For over 40 years, this family-owned and operated business has serviced the Corvette industry. Their state-of-the-art warehouse and manufacturing facility make ordering your parts easier and more efficient than ever. Use your computer, smartphone, tablet, or just call us directly to place your order. America's leader in Corvette parts and accessories since 1975.
Corvette, America's sports car. When you're ready to sell your vintage vet, Vince Conn Corvette is a name you can trust. He's been in business for more than 28 years, buying 1953 to 72 model Corvettes from all around the country. Condition is not a concern. Vince Conn Corvette invests in restored to fixer-uppers. When you're ready to sell, give Vince Conn Corvette a call at 1-800-850-3656 or visit VinceConnCorvette.com.
GT Joey will satisfy a long-time desire to experience the James Bond Aston Martin DB5 from the passenger seat at the Amelia Island Concours. But now, we're catching up with Maria Prekages at Long Island Sports Cars, where one of the rarest Aston Martins in existence, the 1989 Volante V8, brings with it some very interesting background.
This gorgeous, and I think that's an understatement, 1989 Aston Martin V8, restored by none other than you.
Yeah.
When do you have time to restore a car?
Oh, in my spare time, yeah.
In all your spare time?
Yeah, no, I just love these cars, so I can't keep my hands off sometimes.
So you go from the suit and tie back home to your scrubbies and just start working on them?
Yeah, the boys like to try and keep me out of the shop, but sometimes they're not successful.
I love it. So tell me what's so unique about this car, why you have it, and why you took the time to restore it.
This is one of 6 cars built. It's the last model year of this car, and it's so unique and so special. And I happened to work on it when it was new as well, so it has a special place in my heart, you know. So I recognize it as an old friend.
I love it. When you see these cars that you worked on years back and now they're back in your life,
Yeah.
How fun is that?
It's a lot of fun, and it makes me feel younger because the car looks so good.
Well, you look pretty good too. Tell me what you did, the details.
Well, we did a paint job on the car, and we had the whole interior replaced with the correct Connolly hides. I did a lot of work on the convertible top myself. The convertible top is actually held in back with a piece of oak, and so I had to actually build a new piece of oak to hold the convertible top, so that was kind of fun. And I made some panels for the inside of the car, did a tune-up, did the suspension, you know, normal stuff.
Normal for you, perhaps, especially when it comes to Aston Martins. And in the trunk, you're ready to go.
Yeah, it's got some fitted luggage, which is another rarity. Yeah, so some unusually sized luggage, but yeah, it's pretty special.
Now, I heard rumor, just rumor by the way, that not too many people have been behind the wheel after you restored it.
I have.
And that's all. So there you have it. I love it. Well, very special to you, and it's a very special car, and having you work on it and see it again, that has to just be
Like
awesome.
I said, it's like an old friend, you know. I love to see these cars that I've known, you know, for 30 years, better than 30 years. It's good to have them back.
It was the car that bedeviled international villains and helped Agent 007 to evade his evil adversaries. Now, it's capturing GT Joey's imagination to the max. The 1964 Aston Martin DB5 at the Amelia Island Concours.
So, John, go over some of the features inside the original Goldfinger car.
Oh, there's lots of them. Wait a minute, there's a phone call for you, Joey.
Really?
Yes.
Who can that be? Let me see. Hello? Donald? You watching the show? Yes, he paid his import tax on this car. When he come back to New York, we'll do lunch. Wednesday? Well, when's Melania coming back? Tuesday? I'll be in on Tuesday. Bye. Wrong number. So what else you got in the car?
We got all kinds of stuff. You have a little control panel here in the center.
Yes.
You can operate the bullet deflector screen out in the back.
Yep.
You can rotate the license plates with this into 3 different positions. You have the bumper ram actuators to hydraulically make the
Push
rams
people
go in
off
and
the
out.
road.
There you go, just bump them off.
Now, for the most part, does everything work, John?
Yes, it actually does.
Now, what was underneath there?
Oh, that's the cool part. It's a little oscilloscope, so when James puts a little magnetic tracking device on the bad guy car, then he can track it around, and then the radar beacon spins around in the fender mirror up there. So,
I mean, this was my car, John, as a kid. I can't believe I'm even sitting in it, but it's amazing that everything is still working.
it's a testament to the previous owner putting it in a room for 40 years and just you know, not abusing it out on the road and turning it into scrap. So it's had a pretty good life.
Now, with the museum, what do you do with the car? Do you use it for charitable events?
Yeah, just like we're here at Amelia Island, and you know, Bill Warner dedicates a certain amount of money, I believe, to the Jacksonville Children's Hospital, and you know, other events we go to. There's various different charities, or it's just a great car because it attracts so many people, and I think shows enjoy that the idea that drawing more people in.
Yeah, it's just a neat piece. What do you say we go for a ride?
Sure.
Oh, hold on, I gotta get the spikes out of the wheel. Let's go. The car sounds really good, doesn't it, John?
It's got a great raspy exhaust note to it.
Are you comfortable driving on the right-hand side?
It takes a little getting used to.
Yeah. You know, with this fifth gear, she doesn't rev too high, does she?
You could drive around in first gear. It's really geared high.
Right.
I don't exactly know the top speed of this car, but it may be closer to 140, 150.
Brakes work pretty good in the car, eh?
Yeah. Good enough to tailgate.
John, thanks for the ride, my friend. I've had this for a long time, and for letting us take the car on the show and going out for a ride. I wanted to give it to you for the museum, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll put it in the
Enjoy
James
it.
Bond spot of the museum.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Always nice to have a gold bar handy.
And that's all the time we have for this edition of Legends of Design, Astons and Jags. We thank all of our special guests and our friends at the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance for their assistance and hospitality. For GT Joey and Maria Prekagis, I'm Bill Stevens, and we'll be back soon with another edition of Legends of Design, Astons and Jags. Legends of Design, Astons and Jags is brought to you by Princess Gates Entertainment, providing TV and film equity and financing solutions. Carlisle Events, fueling the passion of automotive lovers around the world with shows, auctions, and more. And Autosport Designs, one of the world's leaders in the sales, service, and restoration of vintage and exotic cars. At Corvette Central, we can help you push the boundaries with your Corvette. Whether you're restoring, replacing, or just researching, Corvette Central has the right parts for any job. For over 40 years, this family-owned and operated business has serviced the Corvette industry. Their state-of-the-art warehouse and manufacturing facility make ordering your parts easier and more efficient than ever. Use your computer, smartphone, tablet, or just call us directly to place your order. America's leader in Corvette parts and accessories since 1975. Legends of Design, Astons and Jags is brought to you by Princess Gates Entertainment, providing TV and film equity and financing solutions. Carlisle Events, fueling the passion of automotive lovers around the world with shows, auctions, and more. And Autosport Designs, one of the world's leaders in the sales, service, and restoration of vintage and exotic cars. This has been a Little White Dog production.